Hi, you're on Barlatu, and today I'd like to talk about wars and their consequences. Unfortunately, wars are an integral part of human history, which has radically changed us throughout history, so we need to talk about them. The Napoleonic Wars. The very first goal of the wars was Napoleon's desire to inflict a complete defeat on Great Britain and eliminate it as a political and economic rival of France. He opposed the coalition of European countries. Napoleon won victories near Austerlitz 1805, Jena 1806, Eylau and Friedland 1807, but was unable to effectively fight against Great Britain after his defeat in the naval Battle of Trafalgar. His defeat in the Russian Empire and in the Battle of Leipzig led to his capture and exile on the island of Elba. In 1815, Napoleon returned to the French Empire and began a new campaign against the coalition forces, which ended in the complete defeat of France at Waterloo. After the defeat of France, the Congress of Vienna was convened, where the winners sought to restore the monarchies overthrown after the French Revolution, to return peace and tranquility to the continent, but at the same time to redraw the map of Europe, each in their own favor. The War of American Independence. A war between the Kingdom of Great Britain and the Loyalists on the one hand and the revolutionaries of the 13 British colonies on the other. The last straws for the revolution were excessively high taxes for the inhabitants of the 13 colonies and their lack of representation in Parliament. Throughout the war, the British successfully used their advantage at sea to capture coastal American cities, but control over the countryside, where 90% of the population lived at the time, was largely lost due to the relatively small size of the land army. The French contribution to the war was decisive and culminated in the victory of the French fleet in the Battle of Chesapeake, which led to the signing of the surrender of the Second British Army in York in 1781. The Treaty of Paris of 1783 recognized the sovereignty of the United States over the territory extending from the borders of modern-day Canada in the north, Florida in the south, and the Mississippi River in the west. The First World War, 1914–1918. After the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the Austro-Hungarian Empire used this as a pretext to resolve the Serbian question. Germany supported its actions. On July 23, an ultimatum was issued to the Kingdom of Serbia with demands so harsh that it was rejected. Serbia's response did not satisfy the Austrians, and they resorted to military action. The First World War was an important turning point in the political, cultural, economic, and social situation of the world. The war and its immediate aftermath sparked numerous revolutions and uprisings. The Big Four imposed their own terms on the defeated states in a series of treaties agreed upon at the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, the most famous of which is the German Peace Treaty, the Treaty of Versailles. Ultimately, as a result of the war, the Austro-Hungarian, German, Ottoman, and Russian empires ceased to exist, and numerous new states were created from their remains. However, despite the final victory of the Allies, a little over 20 years later, World War II broke out, resulting in far greater casualties. The Second World War, 1939–1945. The main causes of the war were the political contradictions created by the imperfect Versailles system and the aggressive expansionist policies of Nazi Germany, the Japanese Empire, and Italy. On September 1, 1939, Hitler's troops invaded Poland. On September 3, Great Britain and France declared war on Germany. In the years 1939–1941, through a series of successful military campaigns and a series of diplomatic measures, Germany captured most of continental Europe. The Second World War was the largest and bloodiest war in human history, a major turning point in the 20th century that radically changed the political map and social structure of the world. The United Nations was established to promote international cooperation and prevent future conflicts. The post-war order established the hegemony of the United States and the Soviet Union, whose rivalry led to the formation of capitalist and socialist camps and the beginning of the Cold War. The global influence of European powers weakened significantly, and the process of decolonization of Asia and Africa began. Countries whose economic sectors had been destroyed faced the acute problem of rebuilding them. In Europe, the question of European integration as a way to overcome hostility and create a common identity arose. The War in Korea. In South Korea, this war is called the June 25th incident, and until the early 1990s, the name, June 25th Rebellion, was used. In the DPRK, this war is called the Patriotic Liberation War. The Cold War conflict was often viewed as an indirect war between the United States and the United Nations on the southern side and the People's Liberation Army of China and the Soviet Air Force on the northern side. The Korean War was the first armed conflict of the Cold War and became the prototype for many subsequent conflicts. It created a model of localized warfare, when two superpowers fight on a limited territory without the use of nuclear weapons. The Korean War brought the Cold War, which at that time was more associated with the confrontation between the USSR and some European countries, into a new, more acute phase of confrontation. In January 2010, the DPRK authorities announced that they wanted to negotiate a peace treaty with the United States to replace the armistice agreement that ended the Korean War. Thank you for watching. Please rate the video and remember, the story will never end, and that is important.